Okay, today we're down in Proverbs chapter 24. Now, good news, big news, and that is next week we begin our summer scheduling in teaching. And so this is going to be my last class on the book of Proverbs. And starting next week, a different man will be talking then, teaching the chapters and these last 6 chapters in Proverbs. So far, I've been raising a lot of questions, and these next 6 guys are going to answer all the questions that you have. So store them up and get ready for those classes. Then after that, some other men then are assigned to take specific topics in the book of Proverbs and dealing with that. There, such as work or honesty and various topics that are there. And so we can look forward to a good summer ahead of us. But for today, we're now back down in chapter 24. All right, again today we're going to be doing the same thing, covering the whole chapter. And several times I'll be saying, we've covered this before, and again want to emphasize that we need to look at how many times the author of Proverbs has talked about the same thing. So we start out. Be not thou envious against evil men, neither desire to be with them. Again, over and over, we've talked about this. We've talked about don't look at evil people and see that they sometimes get very, very rich. And so you start envying them. You look at how they can cheat, lie, steal, do whatever they want to do. And many times they get rich very, very rapidly. And there might be some envy that come in there, that I wish I didn't have to work for my money. I wish I could get rich all of a sudden. And so envying evil men is a very common thing. Then envying the rich also, we've seen, is a disastrous thing. That we need to understand that we're made up of more than just the things that we have. All right, then we get down 3. In comparison to envying the evil people who accumulate their wealth by their evil doings. Then in verse 3, through wisdom is a house builded, and by understanding it is established. So wisdom is the big thing. So for the 900th time, let's keep in mind the book of Proverbs starts out the first 9 chapters about wisdom. And then over and over and over again, it compares wisdom with 100 other things. And every time, wisdom always comes out ahead. So keep in mind that let's not envy the rich. Let's not envy the wicked. Let's not try to gain our wealth in any other way other than through working for it. And let us keep in mind that the wealth that we have, the most priceless thing you can have in your life is wisdom. So you get knowledge, you get understanding, you get wisdom. All of these things go together. So he said, now that is what builds a house. Any house that is built on anything other than wisdom, the right kind of living, is going to crumble. Then he goes ahead and he says, same thing, by knowledge are the chambers filled with all precious and pleasant riches. So it is through the knowledge, the wisdom. You can't have wisdom without having knowledge. It's through this knowledge and wisdom that you actually build your house and you fill your chambers, and then you have a good, sturdy house that is built. Now, in verse 6, he said, and by wise guidance thou shalt, I was going to, verse 5. No, I don't think I'll, in verse 5, I do want to talk just a minute about that. A wise man is strong, yea, a man of knowledge increaseth might. So he compares here a physical and a mental mind, the spiritual part of mind. And that is that he talks here about a wise man is strong, that you're going to get real strength through this wisdom, and a man of knowledge increaseth might. So that knowledge is the big thing. Don't ever underestimate the power of gleaning knowledge. When you get an opportunity to glean knowledge, grab it. And when you come to the Bible and you begin to look at religion, really as a whole, and you say, okay, what is the most important thing that I can possibly do? I want to make my life right. What can I do? What would you tell a new babe? Now, we hear people and say, well, we need to have enthusiasm. We need to, and we come up with 100 other things. And all these things are good. All these things are good. But what does the Bible tell you? Scan your New Testament right now in your mind. Think in your mind, like a computer, and kind of go through the New Testament. What does it tell you over and over and over again? That you should glean, that you should get. And it's knowledge, isn't it? It's knowledge over and over and over and over again. All the enthusiasm in the world without knowledge is empty. It has no power to guide your life. It will fizzle. It will not give you strength. But if you have knowledge, the more you know, the more enthusiasm you can have, the more appreciation you will have, the more faith you will have. It is knowledge that all of these things are built on. So grab that knowledge and grow in Christ. All right, in verse 6, for by wise counsel thou shalt make thy war, and in the multitude of counselors there is safety. Now we've talked about this before, about getting counsel. Wisdom demands that when you go into any kind of an endeavor that you are not sure about, get counsel. Go and talk with the people who have been there. Talk to the people who have failed, and especially to the people who have succeeded, and find out what you need to do. What are the dangers? You can't overemphasize the importance of getting counsel. That means getting advice from people who have knowledge about that particular thing. And so, if you're going to go make war, and of course this is a proverb, remember, if you're going into business, if you're going this way, if you're going that way, whatever it is that you're going to be doing, well, you get this counsel. And in a multitude of counselors, there is safety. That is, get as many as you can. And when you get several people, all of them successful, and they all say, here's how you do this, then you do it that way. And if you find people who have failed, and you notice that they tell you, well, the reason I failed is, and the next one says it, and the next one says it, then believe them. There's safety in counsel. And so let's never put that aside. Well, looking up there, I want to get through today, but I don't want to skip too many things here. Wisdom is too high for a fool. He openeth not his mouth in the gate. Now, wisdom is just too much for a fool to get, is what it's saying. That if you're a fool, you're never going to be able to climb to the status of having wisdom. It's out of your reach. It's kind of like if I were to say, now, I want each one of us to go out and strive to become as rich as Bill Gates. That our goal in life should be having $50 billion in the bank. That's too high. That's not reachable. Only one guy in the whole world able to do that. It's not reachable for me to get there. Now, wisdom is unattainable for a fool. But it is attainable if we will use the Proverbs and go about it in the way the Proverb says, then we're certainly not a fool. All right, a guy who's a fool, he openeth not his mouth in the gate. When you hear that term, in the gate, in your Bible, that means in the courts, in the court system. in the leadership. In those times, Bible times, they had walls built around their city. And in the middle of the city, they didn't have a city hall like we have down here today. They had a gate. And through this gate, everybody came and went. And it's in this gate that all the leaders would meet. The city council, the mayor, the king, all the people that had wisdom that would rule the people, they would meet there at this gate. And the people had the opportunity then to stop and ask them questions and get guidance. Now, a fool is never going to sit there. A fool is never going to be able to take leadership in that way. He that deviseth to do evil, men shall call him a mischief maker. That is an evil man when you design it. The thought of foolishness is sin, and the scoffer is an abomination to men. I think that's a good point there. The thought of foolishness is sin. Now, again, when it talks about foolishness, it's not talking about fun. When you have a party, when you look at it, I walk into your party, everybody's laughing and giggling and talking, and men over here telling jokes, and the women over here talking about their kids. It's just a bunch of foolishness. That's all it is. You put it all together, and there's nothing really important about it. That's not what it's talking about. Not having fun. What he's talking about in foolishness is mischievousness, in doing that which is wrong, throwing rocks through windows, or robbing things, and doing things of that nature. Now, even the thought is sin. So keep that in mind. Where does everything originate in man? It's with the thought. Where is it that Jesus says that every word that comes out of the mouth of man, where does it originate? Up here in the mind of man. And even the thought. So now, if you are contemplating and you are thinking about doing something that is evil, having an affair, cheating somebody, cheating on your taxes, you haven't done any of it yet, but you are thinking about it, those thoughts are sin. So let's keep ourselves totally pure. In verse 10, if thou faint in the day of adversity, thy strength is small. Now we're going to run into this again, of which you'll say it in another way. But now if you give up and you faint in the day of adversity, you don't have much strength. Now it is really easy for a person to put forth power and strength as long as everything is going right. Everything is going right. You don't have any problems in your life. You don't have any big obstacles to conquer. Oh boy, you can talk of power and strength. And you may even look like you're a powerful man. But the only way that you will ever be able to know, do you have any strength, is in the day of adversity. The day when you lose whatever it is that is dear to you. The day that you have adversity and you don't know which way to turn. The day that things come upon you and you can't see your way clear. Is that the time that you give up? If it is, that's the test. You don't have much strength. You don't have much strength in that. So it is adversity. And of course, you could talk about adversity for a long time, couldn't you? What adversity does to you, how it adds wisdom to you, how it adds strength to you, how it adds patience to you, how it gives all of these things to you. But here's another thing. Out of all those things that we studied generally, here's another thing that it does. The person that has adversity, the person that is knocked down but doesn't give up, that's the person that has strength. That's the person that God looks down upon and says, there is a strong man. It's not the mighty, it's not the powerful, and it's not the rich. It's the person that is knocked down and then riseth again. So that's how we can tell whether we have this strength or not. Let's go down to verse 12. If thou sayest, behold, we knew this not, doth not he that weigheth the hearts consider it? And he that keepeth the soul, doth he not know it? And shall not he render to every man according to his works? So here's a statement of whether to help an individual or not is what he's talking about. Should I help this individual out of the problems? Well, I'll just go on because I don't really know. Well, he says, don't use that just for an excuse. Because God, who knows the heart, knows whether you know or not. See, there's some things that you really don't know, and so keep your nose out of it. There are other things that you do know, and you can do something about, but you can say, well, I don't know about it, and so I'm not sure, and so you pass on. So what he's saying is, don't ever forget this one principle. You can't ever excuse yourself from doing what is right by saying you don't have knowledge of the situation if you do have it. Because the God of heaven, the God up here that weigheth the hearts, the God that keeps your soul, he considers, he knows what is in our mind before it ever comes out of our mouth. 13. My son, eat thou honey, for it is good. I wonder why he says that. My son, eat thou honey. Well, if you stop there and you say, well, okay, I'm going to go home this afternoon and get out the honey jar and I'm going to give me some toast and I'm going to eat some honey and that's going to be, well, you do it and it is good. It's good. And you can learn something from it. That's the whole point. You can learn something by eating honey. So go home this afternoon, get out your honey jar, put it on a piece of toast, and eat that piece of toast. And while you're doing, sit down and think. Just sit down and think, this is really good. Eating honey is fun. Eating honey is enjoyable. Think about that. I'm serious. I hope every one of us will do it. Then get up and say, now, what did I learn? What did God want to teach me? Did he want to teach me that eating honey is good? No, every little baby knows that. But think about it. Eating honey is good. So now let's finish the rest of it. Let's see what he says. My son, eat thou honey, for it is good, and the droppings of the honeycomb, which are sweet to thy taste. This is really good. So, now there's something else that you can find out. So shalt thou know wisdom to be unto thy soul, and if thou hast found it, then there shall be a reward, and thy hope shall not be cut off. So then after you've eaten your honey, and your tummy's full, and your tongue is tingling, and you say, that was the most enjoyable thing I've done and I don't know when. Then stop and say, now, that was physical. But there's something else that can do the same thing to me mentally. Something else that can do the same thing to me, and that is wisdom. If I have wisdom, that will help my soul and be sweet to my soul the same way that honey is sweet to my tongue. It'll be a sweet thing. And I'll be able to go through life, enjoying life, and be happy and contented. And it's sweet. So think about that. He compares eating honey to wisdom. Both of them are really good. One of them is for the physical. One of them is for your mental or your soul that you have. Then again, lay not a weight, O wicked man, against the habitation of the righteous, destroy not his resting place. Talked about that a lot. destroy righteous people. For a righteous man falleth 7 times and riseth up again, but the wicked overthrown by calamity. Now, I told you a minute ago we was going to come back to this. Back over here, what it says that if you get up when you in the day of adversity, it shows that you're strong. If you don't, it shows you're weak. Well, over here now, what happens to a righteous man? For a righteous man falleth 7 times and riseth again. You know, something that has impressed me in life is how many really, truly successful men, truly successful people who have really attained something important in life, how many times they have fallen. You know, it always seemed to me like that people that were really successful probably started out and they did everything right and they went through and they just kept getting better and better and they did that. When I read about Sears and Roebuck, how that company got started, well, I figured that a couple guys started a business and man, they were really successful. Right? When I see a president like Abraham Lincoln, wow, think I'll be like Abraham Lincoln. I think that I'll be a wise person and somebody that can save the nation. I think I'll be a Lincoln. Or I think, and on down the line we go. But when you stop and you look and you see their lives, almost every successful person who has left his tracks here in America has fallen over and over and over again. Some that I've read about have gone bankrupt 7 times. And in the 8th time, they were highly successful. This is what this is saying, that a righteous man falls 7 times. The word 7 just means over and over again, complete. So this righteous man falls and falls and falls, but one thing he does is he always gets up. He always has the strength to say, I will not let it get me down. He gets up and he tries again. So that's the idea here of this righteous individual. So don't ever give up. Don't ever, ever, ever give up. If you fall, get up. Don't give up. Then he goes ahead, and it says here that lest Jehovah see it and it displease him, and he turn away his wrath from him. So if you do give up, God will see it, God will be displeased, and you're going to suffer the penalties there. 19, fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious at the wicked. Well, that's how we started the class today. Over and over again, he talks about this. There's 2 psalms. The whole psalm is about this subject right here. That David wrote, the 37th Psalm and the 73rd Psalm. And the Psalms are just about this one thing. Of David saying, I looked and I saw the wicked people, and I saw how that they seemingly have no problems. I saw that how they get rich, they're in good health, they live long lives. They don't have any problems in life. And he said, my foot was almost slipping. I almost fell, I almost gave up, trying to see these wicked people having all this good thing happening. He said, until I went into the house of God. Until I stopped, until I considered and I looked and I saw the truth of the matter. So the Bible teaches us over and over again, there's something that you are going to do in life. And I think everybody here has already done it. And that is you've envied wicked men. You've looked and said, boy, I wish I had. It says, don't do that. Don't put your wishes on those kind of guys. Don't look at them and set your goal on them. Set them apart. Your goal is to serve God and God only. Then he goes ahead and he says, in verse 21, my son, fear thou Jehovah and the king, and company not with them that are given to change. That is, people that are unstable, people that this day, today, and the next day they're like this, and they're always changing. Don't do that, for their calamity shall arise suddenly. Now, in 23, he goes ahead here and he says, these also are the sayings of the wise. So here he's going to put in another little section that he's added to this. Now he's going to put in this section because if you'll skip down to chapter 25, verse 1, you'll notice that there's going to be a new section of Proverbs starting there, but that will be for next week. Now he said, here's some others that I want to give to you now. Now to have respect of persons in judgment is not good. And he that saith unto the wicked, thou art righteous, people shall curse him, nations shall abhor him. But to them that rebuke him shall be delight. So he said, now, here's something. Don't have respect of persons. Don't look at the wicked and say that the wicked are righteous people. Don't cuddle up to wicked people and act like they are righteous people. Don't do that. He said, because people will hate you for it. Nations will hate you for it. Don't have respect of persons. Now, of course, the New Testament is full of that, isn't it? How that God has no respect of persons, how he will judge us according to our works, how they came to Jesus one day, the Pharisees and Sadducees, and they said, we know, Lord, that you have no concern, you have no respect of persons. So I want to ask you a question. So that's something that we need to take in consideration, and that's what the Proverbs tells us back here. Now in verse 26, he said, he kisseth the lips who giveth the right answer. Well, he kisseth the lips, but kissing something means that you approve of something. You dearly love something. You dearly love it. If somebody gave me a gift and I look at it, oh, thank you. But if I take it and I kiss it, oh, and I start kissing it, you know, that's the ultimate way of me showing my approval, my joy. Now, that's what God will do. He kisses the lips of people who give a right answer. When you don't show respect to persons, when you give the right answer without showing partiality, that's what God wants. Now then, in verse 27, we're back to one of our favorite men in all of Proverbs. That if we did what I said we could do, go back and read the book of Proverbs and write down, let's say 10 of the most numerous things he warns us against, telling us don't do this, don't do that. Today we've looked at a couple. We've looked at don't envy wicked people. See, don't envy them. And don't show respect to persons. Always uphold the righteous. And then here's this fella that over and over again just keeps cropping up. And that's the sluggard. That's the guy that doesn't work. That's the lazy guy. Now, how prevalent is that in life? You know, I don't know how many times I've been out to the bakery where Wendell Smith, has that bakery, and talk to him. How are things going, Wendell? Oh, real good. Just great. His business is just flourishing. People have to stand up to eat their meals during skiing season and so forth. Just flourishing. But he has a worry. And several times Wendell has told me, he said, Lowell, you know my biggest problem. And he said, it's so big that I plan on selling this. I want to sell it. I want to get out. And that is having good help. He said, I hire people and I can't depend upon them. He said, you just cannot depend. They don't even show up. He said, they won't even call in. They're supposed to come in at 6 o'clock in the morning. They don't even call in and say, I can't come in. They just don't come in. And so every morning, he gets up and he goes out to that bakery. And he gets out there early to see, do I have to fill in? Here's the owner. Do I have to fill in? Do I have to do 2 jobs in here and this? Because the people won't show up. He has a couple people who've been there for years, and they're just gold in his hands. But if it was just Wendell, I think maybe he has a problem. But as I talk to other people, other business people, that's what they say. To get good workers, dependable workers, people who will be there on time and do their job. He said, if we could, that's the biggest problem we've got in business today. That's this guy. So I merely bring that up to show us it's a problem that's always been here, is that sluggard. You remember all the ways he's shown us how it's so heavy to lift his hand and all of this. Well, look at how he puts him here today. He said, prepare thy work without and make it ready for thee in the field, and afterwards build thy house. Now, what do we want to do? What we want to do, first of all, is let's build our house. Let's make it comfortable for us, and then we will be successful in business. He said, no. No, you be successful in business, and then you build your house. Put it in the right perspective, he says. Then he says, well, it goes ahead and gets back to that false witness again. But in 29, say not, I will do so to him as he hath done to me. I will render to the man according to his works. I want to point that out because the New Testament, Jesus talks about it and Paul talks about it, doesn't it? Don't take vengeance. Leave that up to God. Spend your time gleaning knowledge and wisdom. Spend your time doing good. Spend your time doing what you are supposed to do, and let God do what he's supposed to do. Now, what's he supposed to do? He's supposed to provide food and clothing. He's supposed to provide justice for us. He said, I will take care of these things. Now you get busy, and if you fall, you get up. And you do what is right. And you always do what God tells you to do. Then he says, I went by the field of the sluggard. Now here's our old buddy. I drive by the field of the sluggard, and by the vineyard of the men void of understanding. And lo, it was all grown up over with thorns. The face thereof was covered with nettles, and the stone wall thereof was broken down. So I saw the farm just deteriorating. Then I beheld and considered well. I saw and received instructions. What caused this? What caused this farm to deteriorate? What caused it to fall apart? Was it a tornado? No. No, you look down there where those tornadoes just went through, and in a year from now you look and it'll be green, it'll be built up, they'll be flourishing. But here's what causes it to deteriorate. He says, a little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands, so thy poverty cometh as a robber, and thy want as an armed man. So he said, what causes this to happen is laziness. It's just a little bit more slumber, staying in bed just a little later than what we need to stay in bed, just being a sluggard, not working diligently. And when we don't do that, he said that has exactly the same effect as if a man comes in with a gun and he's armed and he steals from you. So over and over again, we learn this lesson. Okay, that brings us down to the end of 24.